In my life, I have had to restart multiple times, and something that has helped me to reorientate when this happens to me, or has happened to me. Hopefully, it won't continue to happen to me anymore in the future. I have made a lot of changes to try to better my situation from that, but something that helped me reorientate when it did happen is separating my life into chapters. Basically, I think of myself as having lived multiple lifetimes. That doesn't mean I don't accept that that happened in my life. It just means it's a separate lifetime that's not part of my current life right now. I have to do that. I have to compartmentalize it and separate myself from it so that A, I don't feel like a failure and dragged down. B, so I can move forward and actually have some semblance of hope for the future. C, so that I can imagine quality of life and not stay stuck in a survival mode situation for my entire life. And finally, I have to do that for my own ability to grow. And it's not necessarily like a phoenix rising up from the ashes. It's more of like a seed growing up after everything caught on fire and the forest burned down, but something's going to grow back. And that new tree that's coming up from that seed isn't the same as the old trees that were there before the forest fire, but it's still going to regrow as part of the other things that are regrowing, and it's going to turn back into the same forest. So it's not the same plants, but it is the same space. And so it's a different life taking up space, but it's all stair-stepped with each other. The plants that are growing right now in the wreckage of what was before, they'll be dropping seeds just in case it ever does happen again. It'll regrow. I know it will. I'll rebuild again. And I am semi-indestructible because of that. I know how to take a blow. I am a pillar of strength. And it's not because I should have to be. It's not necessarily the best thing in the world. I definitely don't wish upon other people to have had my experiences in life that have been almost solid 85% negative. But separating myself out into separate lifetimes like that made it so that I could get through. I remember when I was a teenager and I was coming terms with the fact that I was going down a very dark road when I was 15 and a half. There were really only two paths forward. I remember thinking, I've been trying to, end myself so much. What I really need to do is end this life. And maybe I don't have to end myself to do that. That's maybe a weird conclusion to come to, especially at 15 and a half, but that's where I ended up. I started hyper focusing on the fact that I was going to move thousands of miles away. I was going to start over. I was not going to stay there, and I was not going to keep living in the way that I was living. And in one hand, that's good because I was living in extreme abuse, almost daily domestic violence. I was not safe in the place that I was living in, and I was very messed up. Who wouldn't be under those circumstances? But on the other hand, I don't think it's most people's automatic conclusion to come to that point. I have this weird thing where I don't hate myself, and I don't necessarily have like a bunch of self-love either. I am somewhat ambivalent, but I am very aware of my capabilities. I know what I can do and that I am pretty capable. I am a very functional person. Even on my autopilot, it's a decently functional autopilot. I am a draft horse. I'm an overfunctioner. And because of that, I'll get through. I'm good at survival. But I would much rather get to a point in life where I'm good at quality of life. And I have been working on it, and I've been getting better at it. It's gradual for me, but it's helped me a lot to separate myself from things that were, quite frankly, extremely difficult to survive. Those first seeds, I don't know how I planted them. People ask me how I'm so resilient. I don't know. Like when I was a child, I was surviving. I should have died, either because other people did it or I did it or something, but somehow I just kept getting through. And I can't explain that. I have no explanation how a 3-year-old survives near-death experiences, how a 9-year-old survives near-death experiences, how all through my whole childhood, like all the way back, before I can even remember, I've had it described to me that I survived near-death experiences. I don't know. It's just always been there. Death and I are old companions. We're war buddies. We just go through life together. I don't know. But at some point, I started planting a seed of, I'll get through this and I'll start a new life. And I don't know where that happened. I don't know when that happened. I think maybe when I was 9. I was completely destroyed and devastated when I was 9, when I realized other children didn't live the way that I did. It definitely messed me up. That was my very first attempt at ending myself when I was 9 years old. And it was because I met someone who was actually nice, and nice to her children and nice to me, but she was only nice to me. She wasn't going to adopt me. She wasn't going to become like an important figure in my life. And it like really clarified to me, other kids don't live this way. This is not what life is actually supposed to be like. And it was so absolutely annihilating on my psyche. But at the same time, I knew something else could exist. Even if it wasn't for me, it was a possibility. And I think that must be where it started. Just this sense of it exists somewhere. And if I could just somehow get to it, if I could just somehow matter to someone enough that they would care, or if I could just somehow get out of this situation, maybe things would be different. Something has to be different, because not everyone lives the way I live. And there has to be reasons for that. And as I've gotten older, I've realized a lot of the reasons, and some of them were definitely not my fault. And some of them were just flat out not controllable things. Every single time I've been in a horrifyingly bad relationship and I lost everything and I had basically nothing to my name and I had to restart again, there's this sense of there's something else. There has to be something else. It can't just be this. And I just rebuild, and that little seed comes growing back up out of the scorched earth again. Compartmentalizing my life into separate lifetimes helps me to do that. And if you are someone who maybe you're going through some stuff, maybe right now at this point in life, it feels like you can't seem to get ahead, or everything's falling apart, or you're just like trapped, restart. I can't say enough. Don't just give up on everything entirely. Accept that you have almost nothing to work with and do something different. Go somewhere else. Interact with someone else. Just change something, because what you're doing hasn't been working. So try something different. And different is hard. Different is scary. Different is exhausting. But different leads you to a different lifetime. And maybe your next life will be better than the last one. It's not the same as, reincarnation or whatever, because you don't technically actually die. There's definitely repeatedly been at points in my life where the life that I was leading died, and I had to start a different one. It's not quite as drastic as like going into witness protection or something like that, but it's not that dissimilar. Literally just start from scratch again. It's very difficult, but it's better than staying where nothing ever is going to change and it's always going to be horrifyingly bad. Maybe your life's not quite as drastic. maybe not quite as dramatic of things have been going on for you. Maybe you don't need to restart that many times in your life. And that's awesome. I'm very glad if you don't have the same sorts of things going on as I did. That's a relief. I wish only for more people to have better lives. I am not one of those people who's like, oh, I went through the school of hard knocks, so everybody else needs to too. You know, heck no. If the next person can have it easier, I am so glad for that to happen. I wish for everyone to have it easier. If you are someone who isn't having it easier, if you are someone who's having a hard time, maybe it's terrifying to consider this advice, and that's okay. But this is what has worked for me. I literally a year ago, way back in June last year, I was very lost and I was having a hard time. I had barely started this channel and was just desperately trying to do something. I always wanted to be an expert in my field and to help people. I thought, well, maybe this little YouTube channel thing will be a way for me to do that. I just need something, anything to be happening. I don't have that many followers. It's okay. It's not really about that. It was much more about me and me helping myself and also helping other people at the same time. But doing this helped me realize that what I was doing in life was just not working. Helped me go over some of the life lessons that I've learned and experiences that I've dealt with. Helped me rethink some things. I want to help people financially. I want to help people, feel more motivated in life. I wonder if I would have encountered the good advice that I got, if I would have gone back to college, if I would have made the decisions I had made, if I hadn't decided to try this little YouTube channel and restart. And restarting isn't always flashy. This channel is not flashy. It's not always something that seems progressive in the way of lots of big numbers. I have no big numbers to show for this channel, but I am having very significant things happening in real life. And it did start with a little teeny tiny seed of me being in a place of pure desperation and doing this. And maybe this didn't succeed in the way that most people would view it as a success, but I actually feel like this has worked out really well because it led me to the other things that are going on in my life. I'm now published. I am speaking at conferences. I am hosting events. I am a leader in, the space that I'm in. And I wouldn't be where I am right now if I hadn't been where I was a year ago. In the end of August, beginning of September, I decided to go to school, and I randomly shoved myself in as hard and fast as I could to school. I had to do so much paperwork. I had to fill out so many forms. Oh my gosh, it was so much work to just get in because fall quarter was about to start and stuff had already been filled in and classes were already full, and it was a lot. But I did it. It's probably the best decision I ever made my entire life because it led me to the people who are now in my life. And unfortunately, most of my life was filled with not that great of people. And now I have quality people in my life. I've never had that before, to just be surrounded by quality people. Don't take for granted how small a seed is when you first plant it. It's okay if it's difficult or if it doesn't look like it's doing anything at first, or your lifetime that you're trying to start over, there's some struggle at the beginning. It's okay, because the chances that it'll turn into something better exist. I've had to restart my life so many times because most of the times it didn't lead to a better life. And so then I'd have to start over again. It may have taken a long time, but I'm finally to the point where I restarted into a new lifetime and it's a better life. I had to reincarnate multiple times, but here I am, and things are a heck of a lot better. Don't give up. Do not give up on taking up space. Maybe your life needs to take a new shape. Maybe the way you're living needs a new form. Maybe it's a different type of tree that needs to grow instead of the old kind. But don't actually just give up. If you start over, there's at least a chance. And that chance is potential. That potential can grow into something. Maybe it'll take you till you're almost 40, before someone notices that you have potential. It sucks when that happens, but it doesn't mean you don't have potential. As long as you're still restarting, that potential is still there, and that forest could still grow into something healthy and vibrant and worthy of the pursuit. Don't give up. Start over.